Focus, determination, passion, stamina, and the will to win. The end with the Ricmotech Sports Car Series. Motorsports brings you the Ricmotech Sports Car Series, brought to you by Ricmotech, high-performance sim racing equipment, and by Proforma, Elite Texas Graphics. Live Mondays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern.
After a frantic opening race meeting at Watkins Glen, the Ricmotech Sports Car Series heads to the UK, to Norfolk, in fact, to the Snetterton circuit, the Snetterton 300, for round 2 of season 14 of the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series. We'll be getting set for Performer Texas Elite Graphics qualifying in a moment, but first here is a track guide to find out what it takes to get around this Snetterton 300 circuit.
Welcome, everyone, to the Snetterton 300 course located here in Norfolk, England. Great to have you with us as we provide you your track guide today in the Ford Mustang around this very exciting road course. This track comes in at 4.7 kilometers, or just over 2.9 miles in length. It was opened in 1953 and was constructed on an old RAF airfield that was actually once used by the U.S. Air Force. The Snetterton 300 layout that we're driving today is actually the latest addition to this course. In 2011, they decided to expand the road course in the interior section. They added a couple of straightaways and I believe 3 extra turns. So let's go ahead and get rolling and give you a tour around this beautiful sports car track. You'll notice pit entry to the right there. That's a very interesting entry there. It's a hard left and a right to get in. You got to be real careful on the brakes. Crossing the start-finish line, we're heading up into turn 1 on Senna Straight. This will bring us down into third gear here. Light brake, let the car rotate, get back to throttle early, bring it right to the bottom on exit so you can get some good speed down here into the first hairpin on the track. Turn 2. Slowest section of the track. Let the car rotate to the bottom, slowly get back to throttle, let it come up off that exit, and get some speed into the new section of the course. Palmer, turn 3. Very exciting corner, very fast, let it rotate to the bottom, come right back to throttle. You've got a good run off there, off that exit, and certainly could see some overtaking opportunities coming down here into Agostini. Hard braking left-hander, tight rear pin. Want to get that car to rotate early, get right back to throttle, and up through the gears. This will bring us to Hamilton, turn 5, another fast entry, just tap of the brake, right back to throttle, full power, got a good run off there, down into 6, Augies. Tight entry, but it opens up on exit, gives you an opportunity to get to throttle early, pick up some speed into Williams, compress those shocks, get that car to rotate, out of turn 7, up onto Bentley Straight, the fastest section of the course. Senna Straight, the first straightaway here, and Bentley are both about the same in length. So as we head down into Brundle here, this is a section for overtaking opportunities. Down into third gear into Brundle, turn 8, hard right into 9, out of Nelson, back down onto the course, up into third, let the car rotate to the bottom at the bomb hole, out of the bomb hole, down into Coram, turn 11. Critical corner to get a nice straight line coming down into Murray's, turn 12. Tight to the right, heavy down into second, hard braking, right to the bottom, accelerate up off the corner, and back out onto Senna Straight. Very fast course, a lot of interesting corners for sports cars. Love this track. We appreciate you being with us. There's your track guide for the Snetterton 300 layout.
And there we go, an interesting look at what it takes to get around Snetterton here in the UK. I don't know if they mentioned that during the track guide or not, but Norfolk, literally in the middle of nowhere. If you take your highways in America and remove them, it's basically country roads to get up to this side of the UK, East Anglia. So that is what it takes to get to Snetterton, and this is what we've got here. We've got live pictures here of the Snetterton 300 layout. We're currently going into Proforma Elite Texas Graphics qualifying at the moment. The Ford Mustangs have done their bit. It is now the turn of the Mazda MX-5s, and you can see them out here at the moment. And we can welcome you to the commentary box as well, alongside me, Adam Bath. Tonight I've got the two Tylers, as always, Tyler Maxson and Tyler Vickery. Tyler Maxson, I'll come to you first. Snetterton here. It's good to see this series branching out, going to the UK, and the Snetterton 300 layout, as we've probably seen on the track guide, it's going to be a pretty tough one for these guys to negotiate tonight.
Definitely going to be a tough one indeed. It's going to favor these little tiny MX-5s, as a lot of these tracks do. This is definitely a tight, twisty circuit that these drivers are going to have to try and deal with. And just looking at the qualifying times, everything's pretty close between the drivers, so definitely be interesting to see how that plays out.
And Tyler Vickery, you were saying just before you went on air, you've got experience of racing here in some of the BSR series that we show on the Apex Racing TV channel over the week. And there's some of the corners here that really can catch you out, particularly that final sector.
Yeah, that final sector is going to be very key. Like, mainly just in my experience, it's a big struggle with that final sector where you have the very long right-hander, and then all of a sudden it just squeezes into probably like maybe a one-lane corner where you have a sharp left just before the start-finish line, and that is a big make-or-break moment there. And I think, especially with some of these bigger cars, especially with the GS class, that's going to be very interesting. I'm hoping for some clean runs, but it's going to be very tricky, especially even with these MX-5s, because they can get very unsettled in that section alone.
Yeah, quite a lot of slow speed corners, particularly here on the 300 layout. This was built in 2011. Before that, it was literally just the first two corners, then onto what was then known as the Rivet Straight, then into the final sector after that. Here we're just coming on to what is now known as the Bentley Straight here, looking here with Eric Violet, who is currently leading the way in terms of the Mazda MX-5s. They are the ones in green, the ones in blue are the Ford Mustangs that set their times earlier on in the session before we came on air. And it's no surprise to anybody that's watched the Ricmotech Sports Car Series before that Aero Nom is leading the way, but only 0.05 of a second ahead of Rob Hartley in second, and it's Mike Dam in third, then it's Joe Jr. in fourth. Judging from what you can see there, the reason why he's got a P1 next to his name is because he is the highest open driver. The key for you to look at if you're new tonight to the broadcast is dark blue. Those are the pros in the Ford Mustangs. The light blue, the lighter shade of blue, those are the open drivers. The normal shade of green, those are the pro drivers in the Mazda MX-5s. The light green are the open. So hopefully that gives a clear identification for you to see how they're getting on. And as things stand, Tyler Maxson in the Mazda MX-5s, Violet's got a half a second advantage over Jim List, and what we can see here, most of the cars are running in packs together, which is probably crucial around this circuit because there are quite a few long straights where the slipstreaming will be crucial.
Yeah, there's quite a few long straights of this track. It's definitely a tight, twisty track, but it's also got those long straightaways that these MX-5s love to draft in. So I think that we're going to see 2 and 3 car breakaways like we do in most tracks, but I think that we're going to see them more common throughout the field instead of maybe 1 or 2. Well, I think we'll see them pretty much all the way through the field that way, because I think anything bigger than that's going to be a little bit slower to run. But we do have a little bit of mistake. I can see on the broadcast there, Raymond Bader I can see is in the wrong class, so do ignore that one on the timing gantry.
Yeah, in P11, Gibson Racing, which brings us nicely onto the championship standings. We can give you a bit of an update on what happened at the opening race meeting at the Glen. After one race, this season obviously has barely wet its feet, but it's Aero Nom that leads the way. He's got a 4-point advantage over Madhouse Racing 2's Rob Hartley. Then it's Tyler Schiffler 1 point back in third. Mango Motorsports Joe Jr. is in fourth, and then it's Kevin Ford fifth. Jacobs Racing's Jeff Jacobs is joint fifth with him in sixth place there, same number of points, both on 26. Then it's Steve Daniel in seventh, then Raymond Bader in eighth. Then it's Matt Catila for Crossfred Engineering in ninth. and then it's Leon Wright rounding out the top 10 in the GS Pro. In the Open, it's Jonathan McDonald leading the way there, but it's Jake Johansson that's in second, and then Chad Parker, Robert Brist, Michael Hilliard in fifth. Moving over to the Mazda MX-5s, John Allen leads the way there. He's got a 4-point cushion over Jim List, on the same number of points as Travis Schwenke, and then it's Eric Violet, Bobby Charles running up the top 5 there. And finally in the ST Open, the Mazda MX-5 Open class, it's Jacob Beasley with a 2-point advantage over Greg Mack, and it's Lyndall McMurphy, Michael Wortman, Mike Taylor, and then Mike Key after that. So just under 10 points separating the top 6 in the S2 Open category. But Tyler Vickery, obviously only one round in the books. Hopefully after the second race meeting tonight, we'll start to see all 4 of those championships start to slowly take shape.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, and especially with the open classes, and that does make a lot of difference in the open class. Be very interesting to see how the ST field will go, especially with how the ST field was at Watkins Glen, because we had a lot of interesting challenges for the lead throughout the race, and it wasn't until we finally got the clear winner near the end. But I'm going to be very curious to see how this season plays out, especially in the ST class, because I'm still seeing the GS class as it being a 3-man race with Robert Hartley, Mike Dam, and Aero Nam, and it's gonna be just that same question as who's gonna be Aero Nam, and when is Aero gonna finally show a kink in the armor?
As it's pretty much like that, isn't it, Tyler Max? And if you finish in front of Aero Nam, you've probably got a very decent shout of getting a win in this series.
Yeah, you definitely have a pretty good chance of it. And he's one of those drivers where he's so consistent, he's just so fast at every single track, it's so hard to beat him. And when you do beat him, it definitely should feel like an accomplishment, because it really, really is. He's just one of the best in this series. And probably one of the best on iRacing, in my opinion. Currently sits on the pole, but that's really, really close up in the front of that qualifying. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone can possibly get a challenge for him tonight, or if he's just going to kind of walk away with it like he has in the past.
Just looking at how things have shaped up in recent seasons in the Ricmotech Sports Car Series, Aero Nam, he was victorious in season 10, 24 points ahead of Mike Dam. He missed out on the season 11 title because he missed one race meeting. He only was 6 points behind Stephen Thomas, and that was with him winning eight races. And Stephen Thomas managed to somehow win that title without winning any. Season 12, Aero Nam took all 9 races in that occasion to win by 54 points. Season 13, he won 7 of the 8 to win by 46. And this season, obviously, he's got up to a great start, winning the opening race meeting there for Team Bushfink. So everything's going his way. And in the recent seasons, Rob Hartley, Tyler Vickery, has proven to be the only one that's been able to stop him. I think Kevin Ford, the only other guy to stop him as well. So it really does have to take an off day for Aero Nam for anybody to catch him. I promise we will stop going on about Aero Nam in a minute, but finally just a word from you on him.
Yeah, just watching even from last season and the season before, more recently with the race at Laguna Seca, where Aero made the critical mistake and losing out to both Mike Dam and Robert Hartley, with Hartley winning that race. I mean, it shows that they've have the speed, but when you look at other races, I mean, even just Watkins Glen, I mean, you could see Hartley and them were putting on a good fight to keep up with them, but then as soon as the pit stops hit, it's game over, and that's where Aero Nam's just really good at, is being able to win on when it comes to pit strategy.
It is. That's the end of the qualifying session then. Before we go down to the grid, we do have a quick... I hope you enjoyed watching that a couple of times. We're back getting set for the second race of the season here in the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series, brought to you by Performer Elite Texas Graphics. You definitely got enough of that during the last minute or so. A few bits of housekeeping to do before we get going here. Lewis Loper is not going to be here for the rest of the season. Picks up an ankle injury. You see all sorts of reports like that in the world of football outside motorsport, but ankle injury here, that is quite something. So speedy recovery, Lewis, and hopefully we'll see you back in the car before we get to the end of the season. Right then, time to run you through the grid. Aaron On, we've already talked at great length about him. He's starting on the pole. He's picked up a bonus point as well for starting on the pole in his class, and he's going to be joined on the front row for a very short formation lap by Rob Hartley. Moving on further back, it's Mike Dam in third, then it's Joe Jr. in fourth, Kevin Ford in fifth place, one of the few drivers to stop Aaron On from winning a race in recent seasons. Then it's Tyler Schiffler, Brandon Whitworth, Jeff Jacobs, Matt Catila, then it's Leon Wright, Raymond Bader Jr., and then it's Jennifer McDonald, the top open driver there in 12th. 13th place, moving on back, is Steve Daniel, and then it's Chad Parker in 14th. Eric Violet, top of the Mazdas, he gets a bonus point for that. Then it's Jim List, then Dave Payton, Bobby Charles, Jacob Beasley, Greg Mack, and then as we go on further back, it's Lyndon McMurphy, then Geordie Fike, John Allen, Robert Brist, Chris Tallman, Will Marshall for the Dangerous Curves car, and then Edgar Sancinelli, Mike Key, and then it's Derek Holland, Patrick Prevenus, Elvis Rankin, and then obviously Race Marshal is serving as the Race Marshal. Think of him as the medical car at the back of the field. Not actually in the race, but it's been put on the starting grid. Short pace lap here as we come back here at Snetterton on Apex Racing TV. Tyler Maxson, does a short pace lap like this have an impact on the drivers at all, or would you rather a full one pulling away from the starting grid to prepare yourself for a race like this?
Well, I know definitely. It depends on the car that you're in, because you need tire temperatures to be able to push these cars right off the bat. And I know especially in the MX-5s, they can get tire temperatures in quite quickly, so it doesn't really affect them too much. But don't know about the GS class. I think I haven't actually personally driven these cars, so I think that they take a little bit longer. I'm not 100% sure. But so it's definitely an advantage to have a longer formation lap, but it's also nice whenever you got those pre-race jitters just to go ahead and get the race underway.
Worth noting that it's a 17 limit incident for the 60-minute races here, so we'll see if the drivers encounter any of that. Usually at tracks like this and at Brands, they are quite forgiving with running over the curbs like here on the exit at the final corner. Time then for the safety car to come into the pits. They'll do so now. And the field are in the hands of Aaron On and Rob Hartley to get us down and get us ready to go here for the second round of the Ricmotech Sports Car Series here at Snetterton in England. Green lights are on and we're away, and the Ford Mustangs already stream away. No sign of the Mazdas as of yet. They will be coming into the final corner in a moment. You can see them in the back of the shot, but it's going to be Rob Hartley versus Aaron On into the first corner here. But it's going to be the Bushfink racing car that's going to maintain the lead just about, and everybody pretty much whereabouts they started. As a bit of move on under braking and onto the grass and onto the gravel almost goes one of the Ford Mustangs there. That is Tyler Schiffler, the Man Motorsports car, having another best of starts going into the Wilson hairpin, and he's down to 14th place already as the Mazda MX-5s get underway. Tyler Maxson.
The Mazda's underway now as they all fly down into turn number one. They're too wide pretty much all the way through the field, but they all are going to sort themselves through cleanly, it looks like, through turn one. Then we get into the first hard braking zone of turn two. This is a hairpin, so this is definitely a good passing opportunity if you're a little bit further back the field. This is also a prime area for contact, and what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing is not much contact through the field.
Dude, it is, yeah, everybody streaming through the 300 section now, and meanwhile here come the Ford Mustangs onto the back straight. It is Aaron On leading, then it's Hartley, then it's Dam, then it's Ford up a place ahead of Joe Jr., and then it's Brandon Whitworth, Jeff Jacobs, Matt Catila, Leon Wright and Raymond Bader Jr. all rounding at the top 10, and you can see all of them benefiting from Tyler Schiffler's mix-up down at the hairpin as we go through this left-hander run under braking. And Tyler Vickery, that section at the end of the back straight, is incredibly difficult to slow the car down, especially if you're in a car that doesn't have any anti-lock brakes at all. You're really trying to slow the car down and turn at the same time without going straight on.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially with these cars, it's definitely going to be a nightmare as we're heading into that section right now, heading to this quick left-hander, and keeping an eye on Kevin Fording. Makes it cleanly, and looks like he's going to try to make a run up and catch up to Mike Dam if he can. Still very...
Oh, a line to complete the first lap then. It's Nom, then it's Hartley, then it's Dam. And credit to Rob Hartley in the early stages. He's giving Nom a run for his money as they go for the first corner, running a bit wide in fact as they get going into Wilson. Originally named Montreal, but following the death of Justin Wilson in 2015, one of the slowest corners on the circuit was named after him. Drove for Jaguar, drove for Minardi in Formula 1 in 2003, then went and made his name in the States, driving in the Champ Car World Series before moving over to IndyCar when unification happened. And Tyler Schiffler is having the race meeting from hell here. He is down to 16th place, spinning on the exit of the corner that he had the moment going into on entry. Let's see what caused this moment for Tyler Schiffler here. It's not the best start to the evening. Here he is in the middle of the shot. He's got cars going too wide in front of him. He's going to turn through the right-hander, put the power down. Oh, runs out wide. Almost going onto the 200 layout there, and then spins it already. Potentially cold tyres. Do you reckon, Tyler? It could be that. It could be that early in the race where it still could be an issue for some of the Mustang drivers out there.
Yeah, for the I want to say cold tires, but at the same time, that little spot is very tricky, though. Especially, I mean, you can really unsettle the car when you hit those little curbings that are there for the 200 layout. So every now and then, I think if you hit that curbing just at the wrong spot, you could easily unsettle the left side of the car, and it'll really get you spinning around. I think that's from what it happened, from what it looks like. And it looks like from race control, there's an incident involving the 57 and the 54 of Elvis Rankin and Edgar Sancinelli for the MX-5s for the SD class. So don't know what happened there.
Might be able to find out here. This is going into Agostini, I believe, the hairpin. Here is Edgar Sancinelli. He's going to go off the track in a moment. Oh, that was all by himself. I don't know if something else has happened to Sancinelli at any point during the race, but that's Sancinelli off, coming back on again. I wonder if something's going to happen in a moment, because he did go off the track again moments later, and that is it there. So on both occasions he's gone off by himself. Don't know if the race organisers know something that we don't, but yeah, that's what's happened with Edgar Sancinelli, and he is currently down in 14th place. There's only one car that's lower than him in the Mazdas at the moment, and that's Patrick Prevost, who has lost a place since the start, and the Prevy Racing car is only just coming off the back straight, so he is quite a way behind. But here are the Ford Mustangs. They're already going through past the 300 layout, and Tyler Max, I'm just looking at the track map. Do you reckon this is going to be one of those circuits where the Mustangs are going to come up to the back of the Mazda MX-5s pretty quickly?
Yeah, I definitely think that they will come up quite quickly. There's quite a lot of straights here, and long straights at that. So I think that these are going to be where the Mustangs really stretch their legs. They're quite fast on the straightaways, so I wouldn't be surprised if they catch up to them quite quickly. But I think it's going to be difficult for them to be able to get by them in some of these sections, because there are such tight sections in this track. They're going to really have to be careful when getting by them in those sections if they don't want to make contact.
Coming into the final sector now, which is largely unchanged since this circuit first came into being. Through the bomb hole there, the right-hander. Now through Coram, the long right-hander. It's been made even longer when this circuit was upgraded to the 300 layout in 2011. This just used to be a chicane. There was a video on the internet of, wow, look at Rob Hartley there, swinging that Ford Mustang into the final corner. There's a video of the British Touring Car Championships in the early 90s of Jonathan Palmer colliding with, I can't remember who it is. It's a female racing driver, but yeah, there's a bit of afters after that, worth checking up on the old YouTube. But here we go through the first corner. Now up to the hairpin at Wilson, and Aaron Om's really pushing here in the early stages, Tyler Vickery, but he's not being able to make a gap at the moment. At best, it's been about half a second, and that's what Rob Hartley wants in the early stages, and so too Mike Dam as well. We've got a nice front three trio fighting it out for the lead in the early stages here.
Yeah, and looking at the lap times too, all three of them right now currently in the 202s, keeping it nice and clean. Keeping an eye further back with Raymond Bader trying to make a move on Matthew Kalita. But those top three are doing fairly decent. I also have to give a shout out to Kevin Ford sitting in fourth. He's running a little bit slower in 2:03.2 his last lap, but Joe Jr. is also trying to work his way up as well. So, but our usual top three though, they're just pulling away, and it looks like Kevin Ford's going to hope to take advantage if anything happens to the top three.
Yeah, he's already 2.7 seconds away, Kevin Ford, but he's still within touching distance in the early going. It'll be interesting to see if the former race winner can maintain pace with them as the race continues. Obviously, we're only 7 minutes into a 60-minute race, so we're just over 1/10 distance here, and there's still plenty of racing still to go. Raymond Bader, we were just talking about him and just looking at him, and it's still pretty close between him and Matt Catila here in the cross-fred engineering car going into the end of the back straight. Over the big sausage curve there on the inside, the Ford Mustangs decide not to use it, probably for the right reasons. They're now going through the right-hander here and on towards Coram. So let's go on board with Raymond, see how these guys take this right-hander. We were obviously on board with Mazda earlier for the track guide, but you can see you can hear fevering the throttle, downshift as well into third, up down into second, and getting on the brakes a little bit more to stop him running into the back of him.
That was very close to almost becoming a really bad contact there. Almost would have knocked Kalita out of the top 10 there with that hit. More than likely would have spun him around as.
And one thing that is just now coming in from race control, Elvis Rankin was black flagged. Don't exactly know why. I believe it was for avoidable contact, but I'm not 100% sure on that one.
I want to say it was for avoidable contact because I've been listening in to the race control, and it did sound like it was for avoidable contact to the 57.
57 being Edgar Sancinelli. So
yes,
obviously something has happened there, trying to find whereabouts it could have taken place on the circuit. It sounded like it happened very early on, obviously, because they were investigating it within lap 1 being completed, but just trying to find Elvis Rankin on the event viewer here to see if he was involved with anything regarding Edgar Sancinelli. This might potentially shed some light on the matter. Here it is. This is the start of the race going into the hairpin. There is Rankin. He's looking up the inside of Sancinelli. Oh dear.
Yeah, that'll definitely do it.
It's avoidable contact, and it's a push to pass, really, isn't it, Tyler Maxson, as well?
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of avoidable contact, but I think that's kind of a harsh penalty, personally, for me. A drive-through penalty for that's a little bit harsh because while he was definitely avoidable contact, I'm not arguing that point. The point I am arguing, though, is that they're going for position on lap 1. Bumping and banging is bound to happen, so I almost feel like you've got to give a little bit more lenience on lap 1 to that bumping and banging, considering neither of them lost a considerable amount of time in that incident. I think it was a little bit harsh.
Not too much damage picked up either, really. But I guess, as someone on line of duty says, follow it to the letter of the law, and that's what they've done, really. I won't put on the Northern Irish accent, but here is what's happened to Matt Catila in the cross-fred engineering car. Looks like he went off going through the fast left-hander and nearly took Raymond Bader with him, and he gets going again now, but he has lost a ton of time and he's now down in 13th place. Catila, the American driving for CrossFit Engineering. Fortunately for him, though, he's at the back of the train, and even though the slipstream isn't too great in this kind of car, he could try and get back towards the front of this train again. But one train that shows no signs of going away as of yet is this one, and it's the front three, as Elvis Rankin has come in to serve his penalty. He's been in the pits now for a good 2 minutes. The Lil King racing car, So we'll see how long it takes before he has to come back out onto the circuit. Just having a quick look through the rule book to see how long these penalties can be. I know we have a drive-through penalty in this series, but yeah, Tyler, do you know?
Yeah, I want to say it was a drive-through penalty, but it looks like he's been sitting on my timing. It looks like he towed, like he had a wreck. Again, like he came out of the pits, got involved in a wreck, and is now towed. From what my live timing is showing for Elvis Rankin.
Let's have a look at this then. This is after coming out of the pits. And this is going towards the hairpin here, so there isn't too much in the way of any barriers he can hit. Oh dear me.
This hardware failure. Oh,
and off into the tyre barrier.
That's gonna hurt.
It's going to hurt him. It's going to hurt his steering wheel as well. That's him done for the day. Almost certainly. So that's the demise of Elvis Rankin. But here is the rise of the front three, and we're hoping we get to see this for the entire of the race. We're just coming up to 1/4 distance now. We're nearly 15 minutes into it, and obviously Tyler Maxson is something that we see all the time, where the likes of Hartley and Dam and maybe even Ford as well are able to give Aeronom a run for his money until the first round of pit stops, but then the master tactician that is Aeronom is always able to pull something out of the hat, and is able to generate a 4 or 6 second gap by the time the stops are over. So it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be the acid test to see if Hartley and Dam can keep on within their clutches going throughout the whole race.
Yeah, and I think that a little bit to do with that is that they are able to stay in the slipstream whenever they're behind Aeronom. Aeronom is the one out front leading and really breaking all that air. They're just able to stay in the slipstream, and also Aeronom is just a master with these pit stops and the strategies. He is absolutely amazing when it comes to that kind of stuff. So when you combine the two together, when they don't have the slipstream, plus he is just so good on the strategy, it is near impossible to beat him in the pit stop phases.
I think McLaren could have done with him helping them out this week. Maybe not in terms of the tactics, because obviously they haven't even qualified for the Indy 500, but in terms of organising them, they looked totally lost when it came to getting some pace and practice, and obviously now we know they're not going to be qualifying for the Indy 500, and they are off again, and it's been a story that's rocked the world around Indianapolis, and both Tylers based out in the States. It must have been headline making news out there.
Yeah, especially for me, but more or less in my scenario, it was more secondary with my scenario, but all of the main headlines around here, it was definitely about McLaren not making the Indy 500, but then the other one was for one of my leagues, our IndyCar leagues, I actually participate in. Sage Karam, who does race real life, he actually competes. I actually get to compete with him almost every week, Wednesday night in a IndyCar league, and a lot of us in that league were happy to see that Sage made it through on bump day to make it into the 500. So he's going to be the one I'm going to be rooting for and hoping for him to have a good run, especially starting in the last row of the field, and hope that he can be able to have a really good run and try to go for at least a top 10.
Some really good youngsters coming through in IndyCar, like Sage Karam, like the winner at COTA at the start of the season. I'm just trying to work out who it was. It was Colton Herta that won there. Really interesting story that I saw during the rain delay coverage about him being in a band that I saw during the qualifying session. It looked fantastic. Obviously, got to do something if the racing career doesn't pan out. But here is the battle for the lead in the Mazdas. Just going back to it, and Tyler, here we've got Tyler Maxson. We've got 3 cars going at it now for the lead in the Mazdas, along with 3 cars going at it for the lead in the Ford Mustangs. Jim List, Eric Violet, and Dave Payton all going out here. Not the order that we saw in qualifying. Eric Violet, who was fastest there, he's now trying to get the lead back in second place. But as we always tend to see in this series, it can be a waiting game with this class of cars, just because everybody that's sitting behind knows that they can use that slipstream.
Yeah, definitely good to see these guys running together. And one thing I'm noticing here, they're 3 D2D esports cars. So these guys are really doing a good job. That team doing an amazing job. You can just see the team tactics working into play there. Just everyone staying in line, and it's definitely working out for them now with a 4.6 second advantage over Jacob Beasley. So these guys just stretching out away from the rest of the field, and if they just stay in line, they're just going to continue to grow that gap because that 3-car train is obviously working for them.
Just coming out of Williams there onto the Bentley straight, and just as Tyler Maxson was mentioning there, Tyler Vickery, you don't have to be racing in the top sports cars on iRacing to be a well-renowned team. We've got professionals doing it pretty much at every single level here, including in the Mazda MX-5s and the Ford Mustangs as well.
Yep, absolutely. And it's the one nice thing, because, I mean, you can look at it and you can almost get to say that you've raced with some professional drivers, especially on the iRacing sim, and a lot of the times, too, they're out here to have fun. And they're also wanting to learn some of the cars as well. I think a good example is back with the BSR group with Ash Sutton, who is a touring car world champion, and he's out here. He enjoys racing with everyone, and he gets himself a little competitive when he's not in the car in real life. So, plus it gives him a little bit more driving experience as well, especially when it comes to certain tracks that the British Touring Car Series goes to. So it'd be it's a pretty nice experience when you get to compete against someone that actually races competitive in the top level of the series.
I'd love to say I could compete with Ash Sutton, but whenever I've raced with him, I've always just tried to get out of his way as quickly as possible. Change for second place that could be about to be going on here. Mike Dam is moving up to second place. I don't know whether this could be Rob Hartley saying, why don't you have a go at trying to get past Aeronom here? Either that or there could be some strategy at play. But either way, it's allowed Aeronom now to establish a 1.1 second lead. And Kevin Ford has had a moment. It looks like he might have had a spin coming out of the final corner. Saw a big crash here on social media in a Club Series race the other day out of that final corner. I wonder what's transpired to drop Kevin Ford down to 8th position. Here is a replay. Ricmotech Motorsports car coming through the final corner, runs out just... most of the drivers run out wide, but that was too wide, and he tried his best to save it, but he lost the place to Joe Jr. There is Brandon Whitworth going by, and now Leon Wright and Jeff Jacobs are also going to capitalise. So Kevin Ford doing a 3-point turn, and doing well to get back going again. He's down in 8th place after that.
Yeah, it looked like he had to get the car refired as well, and hence why he was sitting there for a little bit too. But yeah, that just going a little bit too wide out there. That definitely makes a big. And to add in on your comment about with Ash Sutton, I learned a valuable lesson from him when I tried to block him going into one of the corners, Brands Hatch. I learned a valuable lesson there. Yeah, not, especially if you know he's gonna be able to make a dive bomb stick. Don't try to block him, because he'll make the dive stick very well. When it caught me off guard, and I went for the block at one of the quicker right-handers, and instead I ended up, he barely gave me a tap because I tried to do a late block on him, and that kind of that in a sense. He took my position, and I was out of the race because I went head first into an Armco barrier, and that was not fun.
There you go. Powers of Ash Sutton there. I don't know if Tyler Maxson would do the same. I know you're itching to get behind the wheel of a TCR car if it is to appear on iRacing in the near future.
Yeah, definitely something that real race car drivers will teach you real quick whenever you're on the sim, is that rubbing is racing, because this is somewhere that we can do it and we don't have consequences of hitting into an Armco barrier if things go wrong. So we'll usually try something a little bit more aggressive than you would in real life, just knowing that there isn't as much consequences as there is. And there are also cheaper consequences than they are in real life.
You think that, but you'd be amazed at how angry drivers on this online racing gets. If they go out of a race, you'd think it'd almost be real life. That's what you think anyway. We know that from some of the interviews we've heard on this before, but it does show how seriously many of these teams take it, and it's a growing thing as well, with of course Porsche getting involved with the World Championship, and obviously NASCAR it's backing for numerous years for their online series. Obviously V8 Supercars Australia doing their bit too, so it really is on the rise, and of course F1 Esports back again for another year. So many eyes are getting turned towards this, and over the line we go now. We're approaching the halfway mark of this race. Lyndon McMurphy and oh dear, there's someone off. That is Lyndon McMurphy in the Capspire Motorsports car. That is the final corner, and immediately I'm getting deja vu of what happened to Kevin Ford on the previous lap. So let's have a look at a replay and see if those that is proved to be corrected. He's following here Greg Mack, who did go off going through the final corner. I think he's just going to follow him off, and loses
that was close
on the exit.
Yeah, it almost looked as if Lindell had to check up a little bit to not hit Greg, and when Lindell got on the brakes, it seemed like it just unsettled the car and around the car.
I was looking here now at Aeronom. Mike Dam has got right onto the back of him, car 93. Bike 93 was doing what it does best at Le Mans in France at the weekend in the MotoGP. See if Mike Dam can replicate it here in the Ricmotech Sports Car Series. And in a situation like this, Tyler Max, would you much rather be an Aeronom situation, just driving your own race, looking out of the mirror occasionally to see what Mike Dam's doing, or would you prefer to be in the Crypto G Orange Racing Cars position in second place?
I'd always personally rather be the one leading the race, because especially it's a lot calmer whenever you're leading the race. You can just kind of drive your pace, and it's a bit easier whenever you're leading the race, because if you make a mistake, they've got to get by you before they can start pulling away from you. Whether is if you're the second guy chasing, you make a mistake and it's immediately a time loss for you. So at least whenever you're in the lead, you can just kind of control it a little bit better than you can control it whenever you're in second.
I was doing a 24-hour go-karting race a couple of weeks ago, and I definitely wasn't the quickest person there, but I definitely made sure I made it as difficult as possible for anybody trying to lap me to try and get by. There were no blue flags, and apart from Josh Thompson, who I just literally could not keep behind, I think I did a pretty good job of just making sure that I was running my own race, and that was enough to keep people behind me for quite some time. When I got out of the car, apparently the train was huge that was going on behind me. A lot of frustrated drivers, but oh well.
I have to add in, was that the one that Chaz was doing the commentary with?
That was the other one. I know that Chaz wanted to go down and see how we all got on for this one a couple of weeks ago, but unfortunately not. No, but that was the one that our Apex Racing TV colleague Chaz Draycott was commentating on. As this battle for the lead continues to intensify, it may just be a two-car train now, but it definitely still is remarkably close. The same can't be said for the lead battle in the Mazda MX-5. Jim List has now stretched his legs in the Mazda MX-5. It's now a 1.3 second advantage. Credit must go to this guy. This is Will Marshall, Dangerous Curves driver in 14th place. He's gained 12 positions according to our timing and scoring. Don't know if that's totally right. He's only gained 2 places in class, so that looks like he's had to work his way through the Mazda field first of all to get here, and that is the state of him. The Dangerous Curves car in 14th place. Pit stops are beginning though. It usually is about 25 minutes in when we start to see cars coming in for scheduled stops, and here is one of them. Jeff Jacobs back out onto the circuit. Matt Katila also getting out, and Tyler Max and Matthew Katila was one of the cars that we saw going off at the exit of let me get the track map up briefly. I need to get these corner names off by heart. It was on the exit of Nelson, exit turn 9 at the end of the back straight. Could this be a roll of the dice to get some quick laps in and potentially get an undercut? I didn't see if he took tyres though.
Yeah, I don't believe he took tires. From what I could see, he didn't take tires. Could have missed that, but yeah, I definitely think that's a little bit of a strategy call for him, trying to get in a little bit early. It's always nice to get that undercut on some of the other people, because you never know what they could do, especially if you can get on clean air like he is right now. If you got the pace to run it by yourself, it's definitely the time to do it. But now we're looking here at the battle between the 57 and the number 98. That is Michael Key and Edgar Sancinelli. Sancinelli is going to go off, and he's going to lose a lot of time, and he is way off the circuit.
And that is that left-right hander that we were talking about earlier, Tyler Vickery, trying to slow the car down, trying to turn at the same time. Mike Key was offline as well. It was a recipe for disaster there, and Sancinelli is dropped back down to 8th in class as we've got a few pit stops underway in the Mustang.
Yeah, that was very, very close to say the least. Looked like Michael Key just couldn't get the handling right. It went a little wide, and usually when you go wide at that corner, especially on going into the left-hander first, really does not set you up well for that right-hander. Mike Dam just beats Robert Hartley out of the pits, so looks like Mike had a little bit better pit stop as well. But yeah, that was really scary for Sancinelli, because Sancinelli, if he kept to his line and was able to had a really good run, he potentially could have hit Michael Key. So I don't know how that's going to play out, but boy, that really hurt Sancinelli though for the ST class.
Bit of front right damage to Rob Hartley's car there as he's rejoined from the pits. I haven't seen him go off the circuit at any point. It might have been from an incident involving a sausage curb somewhere. Might have just clipped it with the right front, and the damage came from that. See if he is able to close down on Mike Dam at all. It was an 18.03 second stop for Dam, half a second quicker for Hartley. It's not the longest, it's probably one of the shortest pit lanes we go to all season really, and now we're going to have to wait and see whether this is going to be good enough to catch Aeronom. You can see whereabouts our race leader is on the track map. He's just coming through Coram now, the long right hander, the penultimate corner, before going into the last turn and going on to the centre straight again. We'll see if he comes in at the end of this lap, and just looking on the track map, indeed he is. So Aeronom, you can see at the back at the bottom of the screen, trundling down the pit lane. We've got his pit stop clock going on there, and here is effectively the race for the lead. Here are second and third effectively Mike Dam and Rob Hartley, obviously Joe Jr., Brandon Whitworth, Leon Wright, Kevin Ford, all yet to come in, and it's all going to be about the speed of these two's in lap. And obviously Aeronom coming in as quick as he can, Tyler Maxson, because if he comes in as quickly as possible, he'll be able to negate the advantage that Dam and Hartley have on those two fresh tyres.
Yeah, I'm just watching this track map just ever so closely, and I believe that Aeronom will get out ahead again. But these guys are going to have the superior speed down into the corner, but Aeronom is going to again pull out an even bigger lead. And he's done this almost every single race now, and it blows me away every single time. Now he's got a 2-second advantage over Mike Dam and Robert Hartley, and that's just incredible that he's been able to pull out that much of a gap in that just in one pit stop.
Doesn't sound like a lot, but in this series that can be enough to really demoralise a driver. We'll see if Dam and Hartley are able to chase after him. It's precisely 2.2 seconds between those two, and Hartley, as you can see from the battle box, is only 0.2 of a second away. So these two could start squabbling over second, and then Aeronom is just left on his own to go and pick up another victory here. Just a quick word on the strategy. We didn't really mention it. Obviously, we talked about how the drivers will be coming in for fuel at precisely this moment. But in terms of the tyre game, the Mustang's more than likely to just take the two tyres, and we have seen that with quite a few of them. And with the Mazdas, they will do the same as well. They're most likely going to take two tyres. In terms of the fuel, they'll get about 18 to 19 laps on a full tank. So as you can see here, we're only 15 laps into it in the Mustangs, and they're already coming in. They want to top it up a little bit and go for home. We're expecting the race to go for about 28 to 29 laps. So we're quickly approaching the 10 laps to go mark here as we go past the halfway point in this one. And as for the Mazda MX-5s, they can get to about 20 or 21 laps on a tank. So even though some of them have come in recently, Tyler Maxson, we could probably expect to see them come into the pits a bit later on in the race.
Yeah, definitely. Could see just any kind of strategies with these cars. just used to that in this series. Drivers, if our sheet here says that they will go 20 to 21 laps, they'll come in at 10 laps and run the reverse of the strategy. They never seem to do the conventional strategy. Everyone always seems to come in for something a little bit different than the next guy. So it's definitely interesting to see in that aspect, because I don't know if that's what Aeronom did to be able to pull that out. But I do believe he did the same service. He just had that much better of an in-lap.
Joe Jr. coming into the pits, coming back out again with in 5th place. The only driver yet to stop is Brandon Whitworth. The D2D D2D Esports car is doing a very good job leading the race at the moment. 6 places gained, but obviously he's got to come in. And looking at how long it takes to get through the pit lane here, 40 seconds would put him just behind Leon Wright, but we saw that squabble going on earlier between those kind of guys there, so it looks like that should be battle resumed, Tyler Vickery, when Whitworth comes in the not too distant future. From memory, he is quite well known for stretching the run as long as possible, and for what we've seen from the notes, he can afford to do so for another 2 to 3 laps on the tank of fuel.
Yeah, and if that's the case, he'll be able to really get a decent pit lane time. Because even looking off of Aeronom and Robert Hartley's time difference, Aeronom was 1 full second less in the pits than Robert Hartley, and that was where Aero was able to pull away an extra second on Hartley and Mike Dam. So with Brandon Whitworth not having to take much fuel, I think Brandon Whitworth's just going to do a splash and go, and it'll be interesting to see how long it'll be before he does decide to pit, because Aeronom is closing in as well.
Reminder, you can get 18 to 19 laps on the tank of fuel, and he is in. So here come the yellow cones. They come up pretty quickly, and he's going to slow down now. Now he's going to trundle down the lane, and it's going to put Aeronom back into the lead. There go Dam and Hartley too. They're just going to go by your shot. There they are. And Aeronom's quickly establishing the lead. It's nearly up to 3 seconds now. Whitworth, is he going to be about to emerge in front or behind the likes of Wright and Kevin Ford? They are just coming into the final corner now, which is Murray's. Similar name to the final corner at Mount Panorama Bathurst. Whereabouts is Whitworth in all this? And he's coming out of the pits.
He's out.
And he's going to be ahead of them by quite a little bit. Plus he's got a few Mazdas to act as a bit of a buffer too.
Yeah, good strategy there. Good call by Brandon Whitworth. That gave him a really good advantage. He should be able to keep this gap and stay ahead. Maybe even if he can run a little bit quicker lap times, he might be able to catch up to Joe Jr. But so far, a good strategy called by Brandon Whitworth. And we'll see if this works out for him. I mean, hey, he was able to pull about, it looks like a 4-second gap over the other guy. So it's going to get real interesting.
Haven't talked much about the Mazda MX-5 stops. The top 4 are yet to come in that class. List, Violet, Peyton, B and Beasley all yet to stop. But John Allen's been in. So too Bobby Childs, Greg Mack, Jody Fike, all of them coming in. And the advantage of pitting early, Tyler Maxon, is obviously now that they've done that, and they can put their head down, get some laps in, and they might be able to gain some spots near the end. We've got to wait and see what Jim Liston, Violet, Peyton and Beasley can now do.
Yeah, definitely got to check up on that, but those 3 being out in front and just pretty much all staying within 0.8 of a second of each other is definitely going to help them to be able to keep ahead of the likes of John Allen and such, because John Allen is quite a bit back right now. He's just about 30, just about a minute, I believe, odd back from those drivers, so I don't think he's going to be able to close that up, because these guys right out front, Jim List, Eric Valley, David Payton, are just all staying in line. None of them are going by each other, and they're just all going to get those cars to the end.
Well, while you were speaking there, it looks like something has transpired for Jeff Jacobs and Will Marshall in the Ford Mustang class. Let's have a quick look at the replay to see what's unfolded here. There's a Mazda on the inside. Oh my goodness me! And around goes Jeff Jacobs. 2 cars trying to get by a Mustang, a Mazda, and that didn't go at all well, did it, Tyler Vickery?
No, they did not. And thank goodness he didn't hit anyone else in the process. I mean, other than I believe it was Leon Wright that made contact with. Let's see here. Yeah, that was Leon Wright getting squeezed by the MX-5, and just with how the car came back, whew, Leon had to get back on the brakes again to not to hit Jeff Jacobs. Man, that was very interesting.
Here's a replay of something that happened to Will Marshall. Sends it up the inside, going into Agostini, and collides with Chad Parker there. Fortunately, both were able to get going again. Hopefully, that hasn't put terminal damage on Will Marshall's car. He's coming to the pits now for his first scheduled stop, I believe. So hopefully, he comes back out again. But yeah, the final stop's underway in the Mustangs. As away goes Marshall. There he goes. Incidentally, he's been able to get out ahead of Chad Parker, who's had to come into the pits for a second time now for him. So he's been into the pits for quite some time. He's back out again. Is Will Marshall. He's down in 16th place as a result, and Dave Payton has come in the Mazda MX-5s. So that just leaves List, Violet and Beasley to pit in the Mazda MX-5s. And as you can see, we were talking earlier about the gap being quite big between first and second. It's back down to just half a second between the two teammates, between D2D Esports Jim List and D2D Esports' Eric Violet. So that is the state of play regarding those two. At the front, it's still 3 seconds between Aeronom and Mike Dam. That gap continuing to extend. When we come back from this quick break here on Apex Racing TV, we'll be able to bring you the concluding final quarter of an hour from the Ricmotech Sports Car Series here at Snetterton in the UK. We'll be back in a minute. Back for the final 20 minutes here in the Ricmotech Sports Car Series at Snetterton. While you were away, Jim List and Eric Violet came into the pits. No change in position, but Jacob Beasley has hit the front. However, the Bees Knees Racing MX-5 is yet to make his final visit to the pits. Adam Bath here with the two Tylers, as we have been throughout the night. Tyler Maxson and Tyler Vickery. And just looking at in terms of the pit lane time, Tyler Maxson, 18 seconds between Beasley and List. That's probably not going to be enough when the Bees Knees Racing car comes in to make his stop in the next couple of laps for him to maintain the lead anyway.
No, definitely not. With just 18 seconds and the pit stops being about 43, he's absolutely not going to have enough time to be able to maintain the lead at least, but he should be able to file out in just about, it's going to drop back all the way to about 22nd overall. Can't quite tell you what that is in the field exactly yet, but it's going to drop back to probably around 5th or 6th, so... but Jim List, wow, way off the track for him there as he grounds the final corner. It's definitely an easy corner to do, and we're seeing quite a bit of drivers do that tonight, but he doesn't go for a spin like we saw Kevin Ford do just a bit earlier.
Yeah, definitely digging up the turf there. Beasley should rejoin behind Dave Payton. The gap is, he has in fact, he's just on his way out of the pit lane now. But one thing we've got going on here, Tyler Vickery, obviously Aeronom, he's not totally out of sight of these two at the moment, right? Mike Damon and Rob Hartley, but these two are continuing their scrap, and it's Canada versus USA here for the silver medal spot here in the second race of the season. Dam doing a good job, and this is all stems from earlier on in the race when Rob Hartley let Mike Dam by.
Yeah, it just seems like Robert Hartley's trying to be a little bit more strategic with when he wants to make his move, and it looks like it might be working for both of them. I'm keeping an eye on the lap times, and it looks like both of them are running a lot quicker. So it could get interesting to see if they can catch up. I mean, they still got about 15, a little more than 15. Actually, probably about 17 minutes to go, and it's 3-second gap right now, and it seems like it's dropping a little bit, so it'll be interesting here to see how this plays out.
Let's see from the graphic, 5 laps to go, the gap was 2.7. It is down to 2.4, so they've been nudging the gap down ever so slightly. We'll see what it's like when we get to the line at the end of this one, with just over 15 minutes to go here. Missing the apex by quite a distance there, partly on the exit of the final corner. Mike Dam was a bit better there. Here comes Bushfink Racing's Aeronom over the line to complete a lap, 2:04.2. What does Dam do in this situation? He comes across the line, does a 2:04.5, so slightly slower on that occasion. And the gap, which was down as much as 2.4 seconds, is now back up to 2.7 again. Obviously, Aeronom, well-known and well-respected driver in this series, and you don't win almost every single race in a season without being able to manage a gap at the front, and that you could probably argue that's what he is doing at the moment. Back to the Mazdas. These two are showing no signs of separating, and these are the two teammates. In fact, it is a 1-2-3, because you can see just at the back of the shots, David Payton is there, and what a great opportunity it is for a team to get a 1-2-3 in this series. Doesn't happen too often, but here Tyler Max and D2D are doing a fantastic job in the Mazda MX-5s here. They have completely wiped out the podium here at the moment, if they can just hold on for the final quarter of an hour.
Yeah, they're doing an absolutely amazing job, and I believe that they are in the lead as well with Bobby Childs in the ST Open category as well. I believe he's running ST Open this season. I'm going to double check that really quick. But yeah, they're doing an absolutely amazing job controlling the top 3 spots in ST Pro here today. So they're doing a great job. They're definitely stepping up their game than they have been in the previous seasons and previous rounds. And just coming in from race control, car 60 has avoidable contact warning, as well as car 77. So those two drivers getting just warnings for that earlier incident, but no penalties, crucially.
And Tyler Vickery, that was we got the notification during the break that it was under investigation. That was for the 3 wide moment going into Oggies, where the two Mustangs are trying to get past the Mazda.
Yeah, and it really ended up hurting. I believe it was Jeff Jacobs in the long run. But I mean, he's trying to catch back up, but still holding an 8th place spot is still a very good run for Jeff Jacobs. But I know he probably was hoping for better, but got to take it with a grain of salt. There was not a lot you could do there, especially with how how close it was, especially with that MX-5 out on the right-hand side.
We go from Norfolk in England to Connecticut in America next week for the next race of the Ricmotech Sports Car Series to Lion Rock Park. We're here at a former airfield in the United Kingdom, Tyler Maxson. We go to probably one of the most undulating circuits we can go to in the series next week at Lion Rock Park. For cars like this, and in particular the Mazda MX-5 from memory of racing it in the Rookie Series, that is a really fun track to drive in cars like this.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun track to drive in those low horsepower cars. It rewards drivers who just really are smooth on the car and smooth on their tires, because that is a track that will wear out tires very, very quickly, especially in these MX-5s having to carry so much speed and have to put so much strain, especially on the left side tires. So that's definitely something that's going to reward the smoother drivers and the drivers that are a little bit easier on their tires than it will the drivers who are really pushing. You'll kind of just see them fall to the wayside towards the end of the race, I think, if they don't decide to take left side tires. But that'll be an awesome race. It's an amazing track to run in. I definitely don't think I don't think it gets the credit it deserves a lot of times for how great of a track it really is. I absolutely cannot wait until iRacing gets a new scan of that done, and we get to race that on the new layout.
Indeed, yeah. I've had a go on the new layout. It's in some of the newer Forzas that have been out, and a few chicanes have been added in along the way. Thinking there's a chicane just before we begin the downhill descent towards the end of the lap, and obviously the chicane at the bottom of the hill to factor into the equation too. So yeah, the new scan, hopefully we can get that in a not too distant future. And Tyler Vicker, even for the guys that are racing in the Ford Mustang class for that next week, they'll all have had to race at Lion Rock Park at some point, because you've got to start in the Rookie Series. So everybody should have a good nous of what goes on around this circuit, around Lion Rock Park when we go there next week.
Absolutely, and it's a very quick track too, so we'll be seeing a lot of laps. As looks like there's an issue there with the number 2. Very interesting. Just very slow on track when we went over.
Yeah, let's have a look at what happened to Greg Mack in the 2+ Motorsports car. This is going through Nelson's, and he's done what some other drivers have done today, going wide on exit and having to stop the car, get going again, and finding a safe bit of track. And a Mazda or two have got by. Looks like the only one to get by there was Geordie Fike, so only losing one place as a result there for Greg Mack.
Yeah, that's one of the spots, and especially going into that final sector. I mean, that one and the last corner, that's just, both of those spots are just, that's always difficult to get those corners.
Oh, look at this. What, we've got a battle on our hands, Tyler Maxson, with a couple of laps to go. This is Jacob Beasley versus John Allen. Beasley was one of the last cars to come in to make a stop earlier, now starting to get probed by the Defined Auto Works car of John Allen.
Those two now being very, very close indeed between the two. And from the notes that we got from the series, this race should go just about 28 or 29 laps, which should just be another 4 to 5 laps from now. So we're not looking at too much longer in this race, but you can see the battle between these two is definitely not slowing down anytime soon. One thing that I've been noticing, though, is that John Allen just hasn't been performing to the same level that he was last season. Obviously, I believe he won the championship last season, and now fighting for 5th place out there on the road. So that's definitely worrying for him, at least, to see that, you know, he went from winning the championship last season to now fighting for 5th place in the race. So that's definitely interesting to see that he can drop off that much pace just in the off season, or the other drivers have just gotten that much better.
Speculating, of course, but obviously some tracks may favour certain drivers, and while Snetterton might not sound like an unfamiliar track proposition entirely, I think we may have just lost pictures for a brief moment. We are back again, and we've got a fantastic scrap going on here as up the inside goes Beasley. Allen looked like he got by for a brief moment, but the Bees Knees Racing Mazda MX-5 has managed to slide his way back up into 4th again.
Just managing to move his way back up into 4th. He did a good job in the pit stops, able to come up into 4th. I do believe that he was down in 5th before he came into the pit stop. As you can see there, John Allen, though, makes a nice move down the inside, and he is going to be able to get that move done on the exit there. So a nice move there by John Allen to move up into 4th place in the ST class, into 4th place in the ST Pro class. And currently it is Jacob Beasley leading in that ST Open class. He doesn't really have anything to battle with as far as points-wise, as they are technically in different classes, but still battling for position on the track.
Good battle going on here in the Ford Mustangs as we get towards the back section, the back end of this race. We've got just 8 minutes to go, and as Tyler Maxon mentioned there, not too many laps either, because it is such a long lap in this series. It's just over 2 minutes in the Ford Mustang class. But here is Jennifer McDonald versus Raymond Bader. Obviously, Jennifer McDonald is fighting for the GS Open category, whereas Raymond Bader is in the ST Pro, in the GS Pro. So there might not be too much in terms of a defence put up here by Jennifer, but it's still a space in the top 10 up for grabs. And Jennifer McDonald has done well today, 2 places gained, whilst Raymond Bader is currently in the position he started in the Gibson Racing car. See if we can find a way to get ahead, but the laps are running out, and see what the slipstream can do in this Ford Mustang as we come across the line. And the answer to that is a bit Tyler Vickery, but even with quite a long centre straight here at Snetterton, you could do with it being about another half a mile longer to try and use the slipstream to its full effect.
Yeah, especially with the amount of long straights as well. There's plenty of different opportunities you can use for the straight lines to get a lot of straight line speed. It looks like Raymond Bader almost had a little bit of a moment there, but they are catching up to Matthew Coletta though. So this battle's going to get really interesting here for 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Something's happened to Geordie Fike, which is why we're looking at a replay of him. It says he's crashed on the timing screen. I don't know if that's just because he went so slow into the hairpin, and the answer is yes, because he went so slow through the hairpin. He hasn't lost anything either. That is just a Mustang attempting to put a lap on him. While we were looking at that, it looks like John Allen has finally got past Jacob Beasley. Here is the replay. I think we saw this anyway in real life, but we can have a look at it again. Up the inside goes Allen in the red and white Defined AutoWorks car, and even though they are going side by side here, it looks like that Allen is going to get the position. Car 22 up to P18 overall, going into Hamilton, sliding his way through Hamilton, and then on to Alke's Bend. So that is a good move by Allen. A couple of laps in the making, and now he's got a Mustang between himself and Jacob Beasley. So up into 4th in class with a couple of minutes to go. As Aeronom has a 3.9 second advantage, with Mike Dam still getting hunted down by Rob Hartley. And I wonder if we could see a change in second place before we get to the end of this one. These drivers have definitely getting to be sick of the sight of each other. One of them has been looking in the mirror at them for the best part of 50 minutes, while Rob Hartley has been constantly trying to hunt him down. They even came into the pits at the same time, Tyler Maxon. So they've been pretty much inseparable all evening.
Yeah, definitely an inseparable duo between these two of Mike Dam and Rob Hartley, and also Jim Liss and Eric Viola. Those have been pretty much the inseparable duos all evening long. They've just been staying with each other, pitting on the same lap, and trying to get the same strategy all the way around. And they're doing quite well with each other. And you can also see there Jennifer McDonald right now battling with Raymond Bader. It looks like there, either that or there's some lap traffic possibly. Actually, we're on board right now, sorry, with Rob Hartley. That's why I was confused. And he's just 2 tenths behind now, Mike Dam.
Pretty close here, just over 3.5 minutes to go in the second race meeting of the season in the Ricmotech Sports Car Series. on Apex Racing TV, going through the first corner through Riches and now on towards Wilson. Is he close enough to send it? Hartley easing off and braking just a little bit earlier than Mike Dam. Look at the Cryptogen car sliding his way on the exit there, that hairpin. That's going to give Rob Hartley all the motivation he needs to try and get a move done here, Tyler Vickery, with just a couple of laps to go. Maybe just one more after this one.
Absolutely. Hartley's doing everything he can. It just seems like Mike Dam's just getting a little bit better run coming into the left-hander now. Just seems like he's using a little bit higher gear just to keep that traction, and it is helping, but it's just, that gap is really not changing much.
One battle that could be changing hands is a change for the lead. Looks like Eric Violet has finally got past Jim List with just a couple of laps to spare, and it's the same D2D Esports that are at the front, but this time it's Violet, the pole sitter, that's ahead of Jim List, and I wonder if that could be a critical moment, which we won't see reversed for the rest of the race, Tyler Maxson, because the gap is now up to half a second already as Violet tries to streak off into the distance.
Yes, Eric Violet now moving up just one more place. Jim List now is on the back foot trying to catch that back up, and now with just about 1 to 2 laps remaining, he's got some work to do. We see the pace of Eric Violet. He is absolutely rapid right now, pace-wise, was just 3/100ths faster on his best lap to best lap. But then last lap, he was a full half a second faster than Jim List. So he's going to have some work to do, List, if he wants to catch up to Eric Violet. And just focusing right now here, Mike Dam, Robert Hartley looking to the outside. And I don't know if he's going to be able to get that move done, as he's got 2 right-hand corners to try to swoop around the outside. And Mike Dam not going to make it easy on him either, giving him absolutely as little room as he possibly can. And yeah, Rob Hartley, it looks like he's going to try to back out of that. And yes, he will. He will just slot back in line. But he will actually try to get him here on the exit, but he's got that MX-5 to deal with. They're not going to go 3 wide and make the same mistake those 3 cars did earlier. And he will make it through cleanly, so he's going to have to try his luck at him one more time.
This is the final lap. Raymond Bader. So just half a lap to go now. And looks like List has got back past Violet again. So just for the majority of the race until the pit stops, but then he was able to pull out the advantage. And look at this. It looks like Hartley has finally got second place done. He's finally got him. We'll have a look at the move once we get past the checkered flag. Add that to the list. But here comes Aeronom through the final corner, through Murray's. He's going to come through and he's going to win the second race of the season in the Ricmotech Sports Car Series. He won at the Glen, he won here. Aeronom is a winner again. Rob Hartley is just about going to head home. Mike Dam for second. The Canadian Dam gets the final spot on the rostrum. And next up it's going to be Joe Jr. who's going to come through and take home 4th spot. It looks like it's settled between List and Violet after that half spin for Violet on the exit of the hairpin. 2.5 seconds between those two. Here comes Junior across the line. He's going to finish best of the rest in the Mango Motorsports car. There he goes across the line. 4th place for the 92. Pretty close between Matt Catila, Raymond Bader, and I was going to say Jennifer McDonald, but she's quite a way away. It is these 3. It's Jeff Jacobs, Catila, then it's Raymond Bader in the fight for 7th, 8th, and 9th. Or maybe just 8th and 9th, in fact, because half a second just between these two. But a final lap scrap going on here for a spot inside the top 10. 9th, 10th going through here, but it looks like it's going to be Catila that's going to hold on, bar a dive bomb into Murray's by Bader. That definitely doesn't happen, so Ford is going to get 6th, Wright 7th. Jacobs is going to come across the line and get 8th. And then it's going to be Catila and Bader who's going to get 10th place as well, as they all come across the line. A race victory in the Mazdas For Jim List, Eric Violet finishing in second, Dave Payton completing the podium just 2.4 seconds away. It is a D2D Esports 1-2-3. And then John Allen heading home, Jacob Beasley, then Bobby Charles, Geordie Fike, Greg Mack, Lyndon McMurphy. I think it's just McMurphy we're waiting for, in fact. So before we get the official results, well, I don't know where he's going. Got the course there, going through the final corner, trying to shorten his route home. He might be out of fuel, that might be the reason, Tyler, as looks like he's coasting towards the line, Tyler Maxson.
Yeah, it looks like he's just out of fuel. I just heard the Bobby Childs come over the radio and say that the 88's out of fuel. Just shows how close these drivers really do cut it to the pits, or to the fuel margins coming onto the last lap. If these drivers just had just one more lap and miscalculated it by one lap, they would not have enough fuel to the end. That just shows the level of risk that they take on the fuel. I'm always one usually to take more than I need, so it's definitely awesome to see drivers that are willing to take that risk on the fuel for those extra few seconds.
Yeah, it's every driver's worst nightmare, Tyler Vickery, isn't it? When you come around the final corner and you've got 59 minutes, 55 seconds on the clock, and you know you're going to have to go around and do another lap, and that could potentially be a race wrecker, potentially, in terms of the fuel.
Yes, and I've been in that scenario too many times lately, and I get the fuel calculator and everything right. I calculate everything right, but sometimes that leader just runs one extra lap when finishes that last lap you think is done and over with, and then all of a sudden it's like find out that you got one extra lap because the leader crossed the finish line before the time expired. So definitely, I've been in the wrong side of that, and I've been on the right side. So it definitely makes a difference.
That was how second place changed hands. It was a mistake by Mike Dam going into Nelson's at the end of the back straight, which allowed Rob Hartley through into second place. Let's quickly see what happened to Jacob Beasley and Lyndon McMurphy, if we can. This is just going into Agostini. And I wonder if it's just going to be a bit of a concertina or something. Here's Beasley. Guessing that is where they think he crashed, but obviously not seeing anything crash-worthy there. Unless it's going to happen in any second now, which I doubt it is. So it might have just been a glitch on the event viewer. Yeah, it looks like it is. So that's what happened there. Here is quickly the change for the lead that wraps up the Mazda MX-5s. You got Violet on the inside, List on the outside. And there goes Violet on the inside, and we soon saw after this the half spin by Jim List, trying to close back up to him. Gonna see it now on the exit, nearly do, and that is what happens. So Jim List taking the victory in the class, Eric Violet getting second, and let's bring up the finishing results then from round 2 of the Ricmotech Sports Car Series. There we go. Aaron wins, Rob Hartley in second, 5.2 seconds away in the end after that late battle. Mike Dam finishing in third, then Joe Jr. fourth, fifth for Brandon Whitworth, and then after that 6th for Kevin Ford, then Leon Wright, Jeff Jacobs, 8th for Matthew Katila, and 10th for Evan Bader Jr. There's Jennifer McDonald, one of the open drivers there in 11th, then Steve Daniel in 12th, 13th for Will Marshall. Then we go into the Mazda MX-5s, race victory for Jim List, then Eric Violet after that, and then Dave Payton completing a wipe out of the podium by a clean sweep of the podium places by the D2D Esports team. There's Robert Briss there in the Bidwell racing car, finishing down in 17th place overall. Then we've got John Allen, bit off the pace, as Tyler was mentioning earlier, down in 18th overall. Then 19th, Jacob Beasley, then Bobby Charles, then Geordie Fike, and then Greg Mack, Lyndon McMurphy, Chris Torman, Chad Parker down there in 25th place, a couple of laps down. Then Derek Collins, Michael Key, Edgar Sanchinelli was under investigation early, was involved in an incident that was under investigation by the stewards earlier. Then Patrick Prevenus, 3 laps down, and then the cars had issues during the race. Tyler Schiffler, 23 laps down, out. Elvis Rankin served his drive-through penalty, and then had enough after that. And obviously Race Marshall, serving in his role as Race Marshall, he didn't take part in the race today. Right, just having a look to see where the drivers are going for interviews, and the answer to that is the interview room. We've got 3 drivers waiting in there at the moment. We've got Aero Non, we've got Eric Violet, and we've got Jim List in there too. Obviously D2D Motorsports finishing 1-2 here, but let's start with the man that we always tend to speak to every week, and that is Aero Non, a winner at the Glen last week, and a winner at Snetterton today. Joins us in the interview room now. Aero Non, well done, another race victory today.
Yeah, it was. I had to say the quali was really difficult. The first lap was fine, but second lap I saw the temps are dropping so bad that I quit the second lap and saved tires for the third lap. And yeah, Rob got very good lap and was P1, but I barely got the P1 on the third lap.
Yeah, for the first stint anyway, before the pit stops, you had Mike Dam and Rob Hartley breathing down your neck. But as it always tends to be the case, you're able to open up a crucial 2 or 3 seconds after the pit stops took place.
Yeah, it was very close. Yeah, it was very hard to get away. The one time I had almost got away, but then I made some mistakes. But I don't know what happened before the pit stop. I think I got lucky in the traffic again, and I short-filled.
What was this Snetterton circuit like? Obviously, most of the races that we go to on the calendar are based in America, but obviously here at Snetterton, not too much in the way of elevation. What was the Ford Mustang handling like?
It was very slippery. The track temp was very high. We don't race here much, so it's almost like a new track every time.
Cool. And next week we head back to America, Lime Rock Park. You couldn't really go to a circuit that's more different from this one. A lot of elevation, and we were saying for the cars like the Mustang and the Mazda, it's probably going to be a bit more enjoyable than trying to race around Snetterton here today.
I'm not sure. It will be traffic every lap.
that too. Yeah. Well done on the win. And before we let you go, do you want to send a quick shout out to anyone?
Yeah, like always, I like to thank the league sponsors, the admins, and you guys there.
Well, we'll let you go now and see if you can beat the traffic before next week at Lime Rock Park. And yeah, well done on the win today. And as always, thanks for taking the time to come and speak to us.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Aaron on. Right, the 2 Tylers have got Eric Violet and Jim List waiting to speak to them. We'll start with Eric Violet, I think, first. We'll start with Jim List, actually, because he was the D2D winner and the Mazda MX-5 winner. In fact, we can get both of them in. They are both teammates after all. So Tyler Maxim will go with first as speaking to Jim List, if he is able to unmute himself. Let's take it away, Tyler.
Yes, absolutely awesome drive by both of you. Obviously, it's a 1-2-3 for D2D Esports. Good drive and good, nice team results for you guys. You guys seem to all stay in a line pretty much for the entirety of the race. No one really mixing it up. And then we saw one of you guys kind of drop off the end. Can't quite remember who that was, but I know one of you guys kind of dropped off the end there of the group. But you two were able to keep that gap out front and keep that 1-2.
Yeah, I don't know if Jim's still on mute, but yeah, it was a good D2D finish. It was really all Jim, this one. I mean, it was him that got me up on the pole, the good draft during qualifying. During the race, he was keeping it cool. He started getting up close to the max on the off track, so he had to cool it a little bit there, but he was playing nice to make sure that we both got a really good finish there.
Yeah, well, that was an absolutely awesome job for you guys. It's obviously good to see everyone on the team doing well. I know you guys are probably all very excited about the good team results. You guys have really been stepping up as a team in general. Everyone getting better and better results. What have you guys been doing differently from last season?
Putting more emphasis on actually like race practice rather than just trying to get fast setups and things like that. So we spent a lot of time doing practicing around each other. and just learning from mistakes. I know some of our drivers were having some issues, keeping on the track earlier, just kind of overdriving it. Some just being aggressive in traffic, things like that, and just kind of learning from these mistakes and just make sure we get good finishes out of it.
That's absolutely amazing job. You guys have been doing great all season long. You guys are continuing those good results here in Snetterton in the UK. Next week we head to a little bit of a different track from this one. We head into Lime Rock Park, obviously a track that a lot of people know quite well, having to drive it in the Rookie Mazda series. So is that going to play anything different into the strategy going into next week for having to adjust what you guys are working on?
I'm not sure how much strategy you're going to be able to do there. It's a small track, and with roughly 30 cars in multiple classes, it's going to be chaos. I mean, it's like a bull ring there. It's going to be very challenging just to make sure we just get a good finish at all.
Well, there you go. You said it yourself. It's definitely a different track to this one. It's definitely a different track that we've come on so far this season. It's definitely a tight circuit there. So, again, is there anyone you'd like to thank?
Oh, absolutely. Proforma Elite Texas Graphics has been really, really good to us, taking care of us all season in both this series and also the World Challenge. And Chad's mom says also the Bago Richards, pick up a bag whenever you can.
All right, well, amazing job again this week here in Snetterton Circuit. We'll see you just next week back in Lime Rock Park for the round 3 of the championship.
All right, thanks, guys.
Great job there by the guys at D2D Esports. Sorry, Tyler Vickery. Looks like Jim Lister dashed off. So, yeah.
It's all right.
It was just the 2 interviews we had tonight, but we've got the best 2 interviews with our 2 class winners. And that's us pretty much out of time then, here on Apex Racing TV. Good evenings racing here around Snetterton, and make sure you stick with the Apex Racing TV channel over the next couple of days. We've got more MX5 action Tuesday night. The series returns after a week away. BSRTC also returns on Thursday too after a week off. Should be good. And more action as well in many of the other series. Make sure to give us a subscribe and a like as well. My thanks to Tyler Maxson, Tyler Vickery, for joining me as always in the middle of the night here in the UK. I wonder if it's getting bright outside. We are coming up to 10 to 3. I'll have a quick look through the blinds in a moment. But for now, from all of us here at the Snetterton Circuit in Norfolk in the UK, bye for now.
Focus, determination, passion, stamina, and the will to win. The end result, the Ricmotech Sports Car Series. Motorsports brings you the Ricmotech Sports Car Series, brought to you by Ricmotech High Performance Sim Racing Equipment and by Proforma Elite Texas Graphics. Live Mondays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern.